All right, guys. All right, we get started. How's everybody doing? You guys look great. You look like you're very happy on this Friday afternoon. Thank you for being here. Could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here, so thank you for being here. Very excited to have you. So, who got the email for the truth? What the lecture is about today? Who got that? Yes. Okay. What are some thoughts that you had from what you read about what the lecture? What do you perceive the lecture to be today? Joe.
Being a good influence on your friends.
Being a good influence on your friends.
What does it mean to lay down your life for your friends?
Cool. Anybody else?
Christ laying down his life for us.
Christ laying down his life for us. This is great. All right. So I was given this topic, and thankfully I was very happy to receive it because I think this past year I've been able to have various interactions and experiences with people that I've had in my life since I was born, right? And as you go through life and as you go through different experiences with these same people, you see people mature and evolve and change for good and for bad, because we're all people and that comes with both all the time. And there's so many things that you don't expect from people that you've grown up with, and there's so many things you're surprised about. And it's really helped me kind of understand better what friendship means, right? Because you can experience friendship in many relationships, right? You can experience friendship with your parents, your grandparents. You can experience friendships with your friends, right? You can experience friendship with your mentors. You can experience friendships with really so many people. So it's very interesting, kind of what you guys thought about when you got this that email, and kind of what the thought process I had going through, and as I was preparing, what I kind of took for it. And I think a lot of it is based on kind of experiences that each of us have, right? Because any message that we receive or any experience we go through is based off kind of experiences that we're coming in with. So the verse that was in that email was John 15:23. As you see, it's up here. I'll read it to you. Jesus says, "There is no greater love. The greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." And what does that mean? What does it mean to lay down your life for one's friends? Obviously, we know that Jesus literally did this. So he calls us friends, right? He calls us sons and daughters. And he physically did that. He actually laid his life down. Many martyrs have laid their life down for their friends. But what does that mean for us? But I want to take a step back. And before we go and just die for people, like Jesus physically died, but before he went there, before he got there, there's so many things he went through with these people. But I want to think about why it's hard. Why it's hard to be a true friend. Or is it hard? So I have a question. Is it hard to be a true friend? You guys think it's hard to be a true friend? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? No? Yeah. Who thinks you think it's hard? Okay? Do you think that sometimes it's easier to love an enemy? Right? This was also in the email. Right? Why does Jesus say there's no greater love than this, but we're also called to love our enemies? Do you think that it's easier sometimes to love your enemy than it is to love a friend, a true friend? Do you think that's the case? Or somebody you consider a friend? Do you think it's easier to love an enemy than it is to love a friend. What do you guys think? Sure, I saw you like, I'm not sure. What do you think? Have you experienced it being hard to love a friend? Who you rather?
I guess you could say it's harder to love a friend because it requires more time and energy. Okay. Whereas with an enemy, maybe you might feel fine just being kind of far away from a distance and loving them that way, as opposed to a friend you have to actually, you're in direct contact, you have to put time, effort, energy, all that stuff.
No, I was going to disagree. I was going to say I think it's much easier to love a friend than personally.
Okay. Have you guys had an experience where it's really hard to love a friend? And in that situation, maybe an acquaintance or an enemy or somebody, you can love this person more. You can be around this person as opposed to a really good friend. Have you guys had that experience? Yes? Yeah, go.
I think sometimes like when a friend like hurts you or goes beyond the boundary that was there, and that makes it difficult to love that friend at that time.
Right. So that's really what I was trying to get to. So thank you. I think many times it's hard to truly love our friends because of the expectation that we set for friendship. Right? What are some expectations that we actually have for friends? What are some expectations? What do you expect your friend to what?
Be loyal and be honest.
Loyal and honest. What else? To be there when you need them. Loyal, honesty, accountability. What else? What else? Yeah.
To feel empathy for you when you're going through any rough time, and the same you do to your friend. You have to show empathy to each other.
Right. Okay. So to be empathetic, to be there when you're going through rough times, to understand that they need you. Right. But you don't actually expect this out of just anybody. You just expect this stuff out of your friends. Because you expect, based on this relationship that you've built over a certain amount of time, that I expect this person to do X, Y, Z, to be there no matter what, blah, blah, blah. And when they're not, oh my God, are they really my friend? Do I really care? Can I love them as much as I used to? When they break some trust, when they tell somebody your secret, when they, do something bad, when they steal something from you, whatever it is, right? Then it becomes very hard to do this. And if you think about Jesus' perspective, right? When he's saying this, what does he know already? Right? This is John 15:23. What does he know? Yeah.
It's the Last Supper, so he knows he's going to die.
Right. So he knows he's going there. He knows he's going there. He knows he's going to go down and lay his life. What else does he know?
He also knows he's going to be betrayed by two of his closest.
Right. Right? He knows he's going to be betrayed. He knows he's going to die. He knows that all of this pain is going to be inflicted on him. Not only physical, but emotional pain is going to be inflicted on him. Betrayal. All this stuff. Right? And he's going to go and tell his disciples, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And they're like, no. Right? So, that's why he says this, right? Because I have so much love for you that if anybody else did this, that I didn't necessarily have this love for, or we didn't have this connection, or we didn't build this relationship of it wouldn't hurt me as much. But this hurts me. Right? And that's what, but at the end, aren't they still friends? They're still friends. Right? Because even after Peter betrayed him, denied him, still friends. Still his son. Jesus is still his father. Right? Still his God. And he's still friends.
that was a kind of like confrontation or dialogue between both of them. It didn't just happen.
Agreed. But the perception comes from what? Like, yes, in Peter's eyes, there's now a split between them, right? But no matter what, he's always there because he's a true friend and he will accept him at any time, right? And that's the difference between Peter and Judas, right? Taking that extra step to fix this, to mend this.
Jesus also took that extra step to Peter because Peter went back to his old life thinking he couldn't come back to Jesus, and
Right.
Jesus kind of still came to him, so
Right.
which is still very humbling.
Right. Exactly. So we found that many times it's easier to love an enemy or just be okay with an enemy because you don't expect much of them. Right? You don't expect much out of an acquaintance. But a friend that you build this relationship with, you expect a lot. Right? Because in friendship, you do a lot, you give a lot, and you go through a lot. Right? I'll ask you another question. Why is truly loving a friend so hard? Now we learn to talk. Okay, cool. It could be hard. It could be harder than doing something nice for somebody you don't really have an attachment to. Right? We say enemy, we can use acquaintance, we can use somebody that we just don't have this connection with. But why is it truly hard? Why is loving a friend truly hard?
Because part of it is accepting true vulnerability, which at many times is in low places of a person's life, which they would typically hide from the outside. So having someone from the outside that can see you in that position is very shameful or shaming at the point. So it's difficult to open up or to allow that like communication between.
But that's why is it hard maybe to trust a friend or build a friendship? Right? On your end, maybe you don't want to be vulnerable with this person. But why is it hard for you to love at all times another person? Yeah.
Personally, I think it'd be hard because you'd have to be changing or going out of your way and sacrificing something for it to love that person and setting aside your personal wants and needs for that person. And we don't like to do that at times, so it's hard.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we judge them by their actions and not by their intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it harder for us to basically to expect less of them because we expect them to act a certain way even though they might have the right intentions. We don't realize that they're human too.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I feel like what Evan was saying like has merit because when you are vulnerable, we tend to see like the ugliest part of our friends and like the worst parts of them, and we still have to love them like, as bad as whatever it is. Maybe.
Right. Yeah.
To love is to care and to give. And caring is responsibility and giving is some kind of sacrifice. So and those two, by default, people like have to be trained on, or it's not easy to do, like to keep caring and keep giving.
Yeah. Yeah. Is anybody else? So I want to take all this together, and I think you were also very spot on with the way you said love is selfless, right? It's like it's a very selfless and it's an action, right? It's an action and it's selfless in its nature. So sacrifice, being vulnerable, all of these are a part of love, right? And it's hard to consistently do that. You know when he says like God loves at all times? He loves at all times because he sacrificed everything. He's done everything. No matter what you do, he loves at all times. Now think about that. No matter what your friend does, right? No matter what your friend does, and you love at all times. Your friend punches you in the face, you love him. You love him. Right? Your friend cheats on you, love him. Right? Your friend betrays your entire friendship, and yet you still love him. Right? And all the things that you think your friend would never do, and they do all those things, and you still love them. Right? And that's why it's so hard. Because in our nature, we have pride. Right? When somebody mistreats us, when somebody hurts us, when somebody does something that you could never imagine they do, your pride kicks in. How dare they do this to me? Right? How dare they do this to me? I can't believe they did. After all these years, they did this to me. Right? After all I trusted them, they did this to me. Right? Because we're thinking constantly about ourselves, constantly. Right? But love in its nature is sacrifice. It's selfless. And to the point, I think it's very hard. Love, friendship, I believe, and love in general, is doing the right thing at all times for the other person. Imagine doing something that is right for the other person and not worrying about your own happiness. Imagine that. Right? So, your friend asks you, I want this, but if you give it to me, you're going to be affected much negative. You're going to be affected very negative. Right? Could you give that? Can you give it to that person? Let's think of a situation so we can actually who can think of a situation? I can think. You have a situation? Okay. Yeah.
Your friend wants to come to the meeting or to church, but it's inconvenient for them because they don't have a car. So they rely on you to have to drive an extra half an hour.
Yeah.
So it puts you in a spot where you have to get ready a little earlier, go, waste time, drive home, come back, drive them home.
Yeah.
It's an inconvenience, but true love, you do that for that person.
Okay. What if I had something that I care very deeply about, but my friend really wanted it, and I don't necessarily want it, but I cared very deeply about this thing. I still have an attachment, and they want it, right? And because they really want it, like, cool, it's going to make them really, really happy. Great, you can have it. Cool. Do you think that would be hard to do? Huh? Would that not be hard to do? Something that you're attached to.
But this is your friend and you love them. Why would that be hard?
That was beautiful, right? Because that's what you're supposed to say. That's very true. That's the right answer, right? That is the right answer. But
I'm just confused why it's easier to love your enemy. Why would it be easier to love your enemy?
when we say enemy, we say somebody that I'm using it in a sense that somebody you don't have an attachment to, right?
Why would it be easier to love them?
In a situation where your friend that you had in your life your whole life has done something wrong to you at this time, could it be easier to love this other person more?
Oh, in that moment.
Right, in this moment. But they're still your friend, but in this moment. Yeah? No? You might be a saint. We're not sure. Potentially. I don't know. We're just talking about how humans usually interact.
I think we have a misunderstanding of the word love, and that's where Stephanie, maybe there is a little bit of confusion.
Yeah.
The enemy, you don't have any expectations from him. He's an enemy. So you expect him to kill you, basically. If you talk about a dash or whatever, that's the expectation. Like in a friend, you have very high expectations from this person. So when this person does not meet this kind of expectation, the problem happens. Like in an enemy, the most I'm going to do to him is to pray for him. And I guess...
To love him.
Right.
Say Amen.
Does that make sense? No, we can say a point if it doesn't. I mean, seriously. It does. Do you disagree? I would like to know if you still.
No, just continue.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Back to this point. So, for instance, with a very good friend, who's had a very good friend that you needed to have a very important conversation with?
I need to know.
You need to have one right now.
Good. I love people and what's saying.
Yes. Who's been in the conversation? Yes. Okay. I love when people come. All right. So, who's had a very awkward conversation with a friend that they didn't want to have? Right? It affects you very poorly inside, right? You're nervous, you're shaking, butterflies. You really don't want to do this, right? And it might hurt your friend, right? You tell them they're doing something wrong, you tell them they're hurting you, whatever it may be. But it has to happen because it's the right thing to do. My point about the right thing is always the right thing, no matter what, no matter how negatively it hurts you at the time or makes you feel, is to that point, right? There are many things that we don't do because, oh, we're really worried about this person's feelings. We're worried about how they're going to take it. We're worried about blah, blah, blah. But we don't want to stand for the right thing because we're worried about these feelings, worried about the emotions, as opposed to the betterment of this person. Right? So we take the easy way and we say, no problem, good job, you're going to do great. Or no problem, we're not going to have this conversation. And we're going to build up resentment. We're going to build up anger. We're going to blah, blah, blah. Right? And by the time it hits something, it hits a wall, and it's either something exposed, or you're not as close because this is awkward, or you didn't do what's right by your friend. Right? So in friendship, the right thing is always the right thing to do. Right? You know what is right to do. Right? Your brain might tell you, in this situation, maybe not. I don't think so, but it always is. It always is the right thing. Right? If your friend is starting to go down the wrong path, and you need to have an awkward conversation with them, but it's going to negatively affect you, and they might not end up being friends with you, you have that conversation. You have it. Right? If your friend is hurting themselves or they're hurting somebody else and you need to have an awkward conversation, you need to have a serious conversation, you have that conversation. No matter if this negatively affects you for the time being. Because at the end of the day, the right thing is always the right thing. Right? And you will find that. Because a year down the line, 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever it is, you will find that it ended up being the right thing. And they'll find it out too. Right? But we're so very momentary, we're so in the moment that we're like, this can't be right because I feel so bad about it. This can't be right because it's so awkward right now. How could it be the right thing if I'm nervous? Right? And a lot of time, the hardest thing, the most important things are most of the time the hardest things to do. Right? To have a very successful career, it's very hard to do. Right? There are a million roadblocks. They make you feel like terrible for years and years and years. But you have to do it to get to that goal. Right? To get to success, to have a good friendship, to build these blocks with people. You have to have awkward and pain and blah, blah, blah to reach glory in anything. Okay. So, just to recap, what did we say characteristics of a good friend is? Characteristics of a good friend. Huh? Say, give me
good friend, right?
A good friend. Say it louder. Say it louder.
He's a respect.
Respectful. We're going to go with respect. What else? Honest. What else? Trustworthy.
Motivated.
Faithful. Good.
I say mockless also.
Okay. A lot of these characteristics are things that we describe our friendships when You know, when we're in elementary school, when we're in middle school, when we're in high school, right? When we're on the phone, they keep my secrets. I can tell them everything, right? I love, they're there for me. And, you know, there's a lot of like emotional things that we think of when we think of friendship, right? But there are a couple of things, there are a couple of friendships in the Bible that I want to just examine. And I think friendships go beyond these elementary feelings that we get when we describe people, right? They're respectful, they're honest, they're blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, these are nice qualities to have, right? But building a friendship is building a real relationship with another person, right? And those qualities that you said are things that you want. But I think the greatest friendships go with actually analyzing who this person is, what they're really good at, and how we like complement each other, how we lift each other up, right? And it goes beyond these emotional things that we describe people as. So, for instance, I would say Jonathan and David. Okay, Jonathan and David is one of the greatest friendships in the Bible. Who is Jonathan? Who is Jonathan in the Bible? Son of Saul. Okay? And David the psalmist, king of Israel, we know, right? Can be found in the book of Samuel. Right? And this friendship, why was it so great? Wait, what's that? Samuel, what's wrong?
Samuel.
No, Samuel. I said Samuel? Sorry. Okay. I thought I said Samuel. I eat my words sometimes. Cool. It's not salmon, it's Samuel. Thank you, friends. Always building each other up. Why was this such a great friendship? Yes?
I think they wanted to kill David and make Jonathan king, but then he warned David or something like that.
Something about killing, but yeah. But does anybody? Yes.
He supported him, and they even prayed together.
Right. They prayed together. Okay.
Saul wanted to kill David, and even then Jonathan still had his back.
Okay. So think about this. Jonathan's father wanted to kill David, who basically got anointed to be the next king. Okay? Saul is jealous of David because all of his people, Saul is king at the time, all of his people are basically worshiping David, right? Saying, you're great. You kill tens of thousands of people, as opposed to Saul killing thousands of people, right? And he gets this jealousy inside of him. He wants to kill David, right? And the son, who is also, he's actually supposed to be heir to the throne, saves the guy who could possibly take the whole throne from the whole family. Okay? And it says in Samuel, it says, and Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day Saul kept David with him and did not let him return to his family. And Jonathan made a covenant to David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing, gave it to David, along with his tunic, and even his sword and his bow and his belt. Why is this so big? Yes, it's friendship, but what did Jonathan actually do in this situation? And mind you, this is not like later in the book, right? What happens is David just killed Goliath, right? And Saul told him, come to the castle with me, you're gonna stay with us. And from that point on, Johnson, I love this dude, this is my dude. I got him no matter what. Right? And he gives him his robe. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Maybe his trust.
Huh? Trust. But remember, this is the guy who's the heir to the throne. And what this means is he's basically giving the throne to David. He's saying, I'm the heir, but you're God's chosen one. So I'm going to give this to you. I know this is the right thing to do. You are the man. This is your calling, and I'm going to support your calling. Right? Do Do you think that's easy for him? It sounds like it, right? Like if you read it, it sounds like it. But you have to understand, this guy's he's a god. Okay? And he's saying, my dad's probably not supposed to be king at this point. Here's the throne, take it. And I'm going to support you no matter what. And when my dad tries to kill you, I'm going to let you know. And when this, this is hard. This is a hard thing to do. But his acknowledgement of God, right? His acknowledgement of God's will is what's so great about it. Right? And what I was saying about friendship going beyond these emotional things is that you want a friend that is aligned with God's will, right? That understands your plan in life and their plan in life and how you're supposed to grow together, right? You want a spouse like that, you want a friend like that, and this guy really got that, right? So much so that he's willing to give his throne to this guy, his rightful throne to him, because he understands God's will. He understands he was destined by God. Right? And he has so much love for him. That is selfless. That's humility. But that's also being aligned to understanding where you're both supposed to be going together. Another, along the same lines, friendship is partnership, right? It's understanding what you're good at and what I'm good at. In the service, the fact that if we can all figure out what we're all good at, we would have a much greater service, right? But we've identified maybe five people. 5 people out there doing things. The other ones, it's either we haven't identified it, you haven't identified, whatever it may be. But friendship, and same thing with service, is a partnership. We each need to figure out what we're good at and how we complement each other. Moses and Aaron. What did Moses and Aaron do? If you guys are, who's hot? Is anybody hot? Can you open that? Thank you. I'm not. I'm like choking. I'm good. Moses and Aaron. Moses and Aaron. What happened with Moses and Aaron? Tell me. Go. Did everybody mix Exodus? You guys all missed it? You didn't read that part? Yeah. Guys, Verena's talking.
So they each had different talents, and God used them for according to each of their talents, and they complemented each other, and they were leading out.
Right. So Moses, the leader, is not the one talking to Pharaoh, right? Because that's not his talent. He's a leader, but in a different way. Who's talking to Pharaoh? Aaron. Aaron is the one declaring to Pharaoh that we need to leave. You need to set us free. Right? So along the same lines of being selfless, there's humility in friendship. Right? Maybe there's something I really want to do. Think of any of your friends. I wish I had the same quality as my friend. Right? My friend is great at this. I wish I had that. But you don't. You don't. And they're there to fill that gap for you. Imagine if you thought all the weaknesses you had and you started filling them with friends. Right? To become whole. Wouldn't that be a much better way of living than living of, I want that. How many times are we sitting here and we're like, I want this from that person. That person's really good at that. I wish I had it. But they're here and they're in your life, so you don't need it. Maybe you want to get better at it. But what is your talent? Right? And how do we fill in the gaps for the things we're not good at with great friends? And that's what Moses and Aaron did. Moses is not good at speaking, Aaron's there. Boom. Don't need to be good. Right? We're going to do this together. We're going to free an entire generation together. Right? I don't care if I need to share the glory. It's cool. Because at the end of the day, we're doing the goal, and we're going to do it much better than if I did it by myself. And the last one I'm going to talk about before we get to the ultimate one is sacrifice. Who is the ultimate? We know Christ. But if there's two friends in the Bible, they're related also, that helps, that you can think of sacrifice with, who are you thinking about?
Abraham and Lot.
Abraham and Lot. Okay, well, I'm going to narrow it down. It's a woman.
Mary and Elizabeth.
Very good, thank you. Spot on. Right? I don't know. It's very good.
Huh?
It's very good. It was. It was sarcasm. So, Mary and Elizabeth. Why am I bringing this up? Who knows why I'm bringing this up? Not Uncle.
I don't know.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Why am I bringing this up? Because I'm bringing it up, and you'll see the theme of humility throughout these three stories is constant, right? So if you read in Luke 1 is basically, in the beginning of Luke, basically goes through the Annunciation, Mary being told, that she's gonna bear Jesus. But before that, Elizabeth is told she's gonna have a son, right? St. John. After Mary is told that she's gonna have a son, verse 39, it says, "At that time Mary got ready and hurried to a town in the hill country of Judea, where she entered Zachariah's home and greeted Elizabeth. After that, Elizabeth, the baby jumps in the womb, and she basically glorifies Mary. You're going to have Jesus, and you don't even have to say anything because you have the Messiah in your stomach, and I know." Right? Why is that so big? This woman, I'm just going to tell you, this woman, St. Mary, just got told she's going to bear the Savior of the world. What would you be doing if you just got told that? Would you just go visit a pregnant person? Probably not, right? Probably be freaking out, right? Running around in the street, right? Dancing, whatever, right? Think. Also, when you're reading the Bible, these people are people. Remember, they have emotions and feelings and hormones and blah, blah, blah. They have all this stuff, just like us. So you have to take it in that context, right? We think, oh, okay, and then she got up and she walked and she went to Elizabeth. Yeah, because that's what you should do. No, the angel told her, first thing the angel told her, Elizabeth is having a kid. And now, blah, 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 blah. Right? You're going to also have a son. What did she go back to? She glorified, she accepted, and then she went back, oh, Elizabeth's having a kid though. I got to go. She's old, and I got to go take care of her, and I got to go. Right? So it's the sacrifice. It's going back to the other person. Yes, I just got this great news. I got excited. Great. But what's happening with her? I got to go take care of her. It's a completely different mindset than how we think now. And when we get great news, I want more great news. I want to keep going. I want to do this. I want to share my great news with somebody else. That's not what she did. She didn't go there to tell her that I'm having the Savior of the world. She went there to take care of her. Right? So it's always going back to that other person. It's always being self. It's always love. No matter what situation we're in. And obviously God with mankind, right? Right? The ultimate friendship, the ultimate relationship. Right? You have sacrifice, you have partnership, right? When God creates Adam, there's partnership. They're walking together. They're walking together in the garden. They're tending it with each other. Right? And then there's betrayal. There's ultimate betrayal. Yeah. And then at the end, what happens? Then there's ultimate salvation. There's ultimate forgiveness. So if you encapsulate that, at the end, with the story of mankind, it's a constant story, a constant friendship story of forgiveness. Right? Many times, we're going through life, and we have these friends, and they hurt us, and they blah, and I can never forgive that person. Why can't you ever forgive that person? Why? Why? Because they said that thing, because they hurt your pride, because they messed up. Great, they're human beings. Just like you. Just like when you messed up with that other person. Right? And friendship, at the end of the day, is doing what's right at all times. And that means thinking about that other person. Their happiness. Don't worry about your happiness. Just worry about theirs. And I promise you'll be happy. Think about it. When you thought about somebody else, and down the line you realize it all worked out because it was the right thing to do, you end up being happy. As opposed to thinking about ourselves, thinking about what's good for me. And at the end of the day, I have this thing that I know I could have did the right thing, and I didn't do it. I know I could forgive that person, but I never did it. And we regret. Right? Regret comes from not doing what you can do, what's in your hands to do. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If this friendship that you're talking about is for everyone, or that's a select group that I'm friend with? So we have like 60 people here. I should have the same relationship as you're talking about with all 60 people, or that's only with you because I know you for 10 years or whatever?
Absolutely only with me.
No,
but that's great because that brings us into our last point. Now, I don't think what we're talking about, this real deep friendship relationship, is possible with hundreds of people. I don't think it's possible with 50 people. Okay? I think you can love everybody. Right? I think you can love the sinner. But because one, you just don't judge them. Two, you show them love. You show them Christ when you're speaking to them. You show them that there's hope and that you're there for them no matter what. You can do that with anybody. I don't care if they're a murderer or they're whatever it is, whatever sin they're going through. I don't care what it is. You can show them love. But I don't think you can have these deep friendships with so many people, right? But how do we find those people that we can have these deep friendships with? Yes. No, go.
No, I was gonna ask, can I have a deep friendship, or can I have a good friend that's not a Christian?
No. A dear friend?
She thinks no.
With the Muslim?
Huh?
You say Muslim?
No, God. No. It's just non-Christian.
Non-Christian?
Yes.
Real friend?
Real friend.
Real, no.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say you.
Forget it. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? We got our hands. Yes.
I think
guys.
The most important rules in the Bible is that you love God from your heart, from your spirit, from your soul.
Yeah.
And you love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
He did not define who's my neighbor.
Right.
It can be anyone.
Actually, in the Samaritan story, it defines who is my brother.
The what?
In the Samaritan story,
Yeah.
it defines who is my brother, who is my neighbor, basically.
Right. Okay, can you say what happened?
Enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Samaritan was the enemy.
Yeah.
And I'm not.
It's not talking about forgiveness.
I'm not talking about love.
It's not talking about love.
I want to love everyone. Can my best friend be someone who's non-Christian? That's just a question.
Okay,
That's a good topic for the retreat. We can debate, we can fight.
Okay, I personally think, in my own experience, I have very close relationships with people that are not Christian, but there will always be this unalignment with what they value and what I value, what they ultimately want and what I ultimately want, right? Because Christianity, if you really believe it, goes beyond just hanging out and just getting food from time to time. It goes beyond that because it affects what you do. It affects your activities. It affects your nature. It affects the things you don't do. It affects everything, right? And there's always going to be that thing that blocks you from maybe an atheist, from a person of a different religion, because there are reasons why we speak the way we speak, or do the things we do, or show love the way we do. There's reasons for it, and it's Christianity, it's Christ. Right? And at the end of the day, it's not because they're bad. They're not bad people, but they don't have that. That's personally, but I have close relationships with people that want the same things as me. They have dreams like me. They love, they're good friends that I can depend on them. But at the end of the day, my friendships with my Christian brothers and sisters that I've been close to my whole life, we want the same goal. Right? Imagine you're running on a track and you guys keep running, right? And we're still running to get to the finish line, and they stop because they already got to their finish line. Right? We all don't want the same thing at the end. Yeah.
I don't want to start nitpicking or anything, but what about a friend who's Christian but not Catholic? No, I'm serious.
Don't ask her. She's gonna say no for sure. You're fine with that?
It's not like fair.
Catholic or no?
Like Catholic or different.
Possible. Wait. Let's focus. Yeah, Mina.
My point in asking the question is, I think everyone who's had a good friend can say that person has impacted them in one way or another. I don't think you can call someone a good friend unless they have an impact on your life. So, again, this is only from my experience, as Mina was speaking from his experience. Whoever that you're very close to and doesn't eventually bring you closer to Christ will inevitably bring you further away from him. Whether that person is good or not, or whatever the case may be, I don't think you should stop loving people. This has nothing to do with love at all. I just think the proximity that you keep with certain people, you will inherit their traits, whether it be worldly, something simple as I care very much about my career and that's my entire focus. And I've seen people become consumed because that person is a good guy, but his focus is solely on career development. So now, if he's getting there, he's making me worry about getting there too, because that's your best friend. So you start to see his goal as your goal. So that's why there's nothing wrong with having many friends, but your close friends, I think, just, again, this is only from my own experience, keep in mind that their goals are different than your goals, and you will inevitably inherit some of their traits. It's impossible to do, again, from my experience.
Absolutely. To your question, I think if their life centers around Christ and they, have this ultimate goal and they live towards it, I don't think it's a problem. What Christianity, obviously there's schisms and things like that, in terms of people that literally don't believe in Christ but call themselves Christian. But to his point, I want to be very clear. You are who you surround yourself with, right? You are basically a sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. If you think of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, friends-wise, right? You probably do the same things as these 5 people. You probably want the same things as these 5 people. You probably dream of the same things as these 5 people. And even if you don't think, let's say you go into a friendship with a non-Christian, and you go in with core beliefs that are rock solid, I guarantee, and they respect your beliefs, I guarantee that they start chipping away at those beliefs just based on conversation. I can guarantee it. And you're like, nah, man, no. I don't, no. But they're like, it's not, think about somebody telling you it's not that big of a deal. Think about somebody telling you, why do we do this? Why do we do this? Why do we do this? And it goes against, and they constantly say that. Just chipping away at your beliefs. So what Mina said, right, they're great people, they love you. You call them, you're in danger, you call them, they'll be there. But at the end of the day, you have certain beliefs that they do not have. And you being around them, if they're not bringing you towards Him, they're bringing you away from Him. 100%. Yes?
I have a question. I was reading a verse about friendship in Proverbs 18, chapter 18, verse 24. Maybe Uncle Samir can explain it, because I don't understand it. It says, in English, the translation is very different than in Arabic. In Arabic, it says, مقصر الأصحاب يخبر نفسه لكن يوجد محب أصدق من الأخ. مقصر الأصحاب مقصر اللي عنده أصحاب كتير يعني. In English, no. You see, مقصر. Yeah. Then in English, the correct translation should be, a man who has many friends ruins himself. But there is a friend who sticks closer to a brother. So I don't understand how having many friends can ruin a person.
I
think it makes perfect sense. If you are a social butterfly and you have a lot of friends, I know that for a fact because I know close people. It can, if you don't know how to prioritize, they can take place of something that is more important in your life. Like for example, if I'm studying, okay, and I have an important test, and I have a lot of friends, and this one wants to go to Astoria, and this one the other day wants to go to Williamsburg Bridge, and then we're gonna have dinner, and you have all this kind of friendship that are gonna take you from something that is for you more important. Because you have many friends, so you become consumed with them on the expense of something that is more important for you. That's how I understand it. And that's very true, Al-Fikra, by the way. I struggle with this verse, but because I'm like that. Yeah, I'm a very...
You're a butterfly.
I'm a butterfly. So I really, I understand that very well. Sometimes time and consumes times that needs to be spent in a better way.
You have to understand, like any friendship, any group you want to be a part of, any of this stuff, they all take work. Friendship is action, right? Love is action, right? You have to be there. You have to be present. You have to spend time, right? Just personal experience. I was thinking about before this, like how many communities I'm a part of in life, right? And each of them takes so much time, right? That it takes away from other things, right? It takes away from other communities. It takes away from other people. Right? And at some point you have to make choices, right? Do I really want to be part of this or not? Is this more important than this or not? Right? And the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with, because I know we're running up on time, ways to find true friends, true friendships. I think identification, right? Identifying who's in your life first, right? Who's in your life? Who are these people? Who are the groups let's start with this. Who are the groups I'm a part of? Who are the people in each group? What do each of these people possess? Does it get me closer to Christ? Does it get me closer to the goal? If not, okay, we understand it, right? There's this group, there's that group, there's that group. These are the people in each group, and these are who each of the people are, right? And this is my relationship with each of those people. Identification. Acceptance. Accepting that these people are these people. How many times do we make excuses for our friends? How many times do we say, I just have to do this because they're my friend. I have to be around these people because they're my friend. Or they're going to change. Or they're going to be better. Or they're going to be different. Or they're going to act differently. Just accepting people for who they are. Okay? Right? And how they're affecting you. Accepting them for who they are and how they're affecting you. And then, I would say the last thing, making a choice. Choosing. Just choose. Make decisions. Just make decisions. You want to cut them out? Cut them out. They're not good for you? Cut them out. Yeah, they're hard? Okay. It's hard. Things are hard. Life is hard. Decisions are hard. Fine. But at the end of the day, you have to make them. You have to make them because it's your life. Right? And again, you are the people you surround yourself with. Right? If you don't make decisions to either limit those people, bring yourself to the right people, then you're going to be in trouble. So identification, acceptance, and making a choice.
I think regardless if you cut them out of your life or not, what we were saying before about loving them, regardless, and hoping and trying to do the best for them, just because they're not your best friend or because something happened, I think at the end of the day, the correct way to deal with things, although as most of the times we end up resenting people that we get into fight with, or we just don't want to be close to them, or we disrespect them, or want to stay away, but I think just keeping in mind that loving them at the end of the day is the only way that you can teach someone that made a wrong to fix it for a future friendship. So I think that's just important to keep in mind.
Sure. Vicky, were you going to say something? And the last thing is, I would just leave you with this. I want you guys to think about people in your life that you think because of your pride that you can never forgive or you can't have the same relationship with. Maybe you can't have the same relationship you've had with other people, but what has, our humanistic nature, what relationships have they ruined because we were too prideful to just show love and show selflessness? Think about that. Think about that today in the identification part of that. Right? So identify maybe relationships that you lost because maybe your pride was too high, and identify maybe groups in your life that you're a part of, friends in your life that are there and they're affecting you in a certain way. Accept them, accept the situations the way they are, and make choices. Make a choice to forgive, make a choice to love, and just make a choice maybe to cut people out. Right? And with that,